Okay, good morning. TJ Edwards is our 2023 nominee for the Art Rooney Sportsmanship Award. Announced that today in the team meeting. Guys were uh, congratulatory for him getting that, and certainly deserving. What a great teammate he is, and what a great sportsman he is for sure. Schedule for the week, obviously we got the bonus day with Monday Night Football. Regular Wednesday today, so we'll be in. We're in Shells today because of the lateness of the season, but we'll be in that very late tomorrow. Walk through short meetings on Thanksgiving, and then Friday, Saturday will be usual, normal Thursday, Friday practices. No injury report today. I really don't have an update in terms of that, but there will be some estimations tomorrow, and then Friday, Saturday. We'll have the standard for the Monday Night Football, but we'll get those out to you tomorrow. And then happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I don't get a chance to say that to you guys, but what a time for gratitude, and certainly with our families, but also helping others. And our guys do an awesome job, as I said a couple weeks ago, of really helping the community out. And our Bears outreach, and I showed that also in the team meeting. And we had several slides, guys going to different places and food banks and those types of things. And guys did a great job with that. With that, open to questions.
And with the Vikings, the way that they play defense,
Yeah.
I think Justin was only able to throw one pass outside the pocket last time. What are the things that Brian Flores does that make it hard for you to kind of move the pocket?
Yeah, I mean, it's well documented, right? It's the pressure, right? The pressure looks on first and second down that are unusual. Having 6 guys up on the line of scrimmage. Harrison's up on the line, and then the variation of coverage. He does a really good job of mixing up the coverages. For the guys that are the spots that are open on the field, and it creates a lot of pressure for every offense. And you can certainly feel that as you go through watching the games and watching the cut-ups. But our guys have played them before. So I think our guys will have a good understanding of where we're going to attack and how we're going to operate for this game.
Is there anything you can do in practice to maybe better prepare to expect the unexpected in terms of those crazy simulated pressures?
Yeah, you give them unscouted looks, right? You can kind of foresee a little bit what they may do, and we certainly do that every week. We give some unscouted looks that certainly we always see what they're going to do on tape, but you give some unscouted looks as you go through the week in your walkthroughs, during the practice, and guys appreciate that. We do the same thing on defense. We give them unscouted looks. Hey, this is a new route, new formation, new motion, and same thing on offense.
Matt, your defense against the Lions was like two different teams out there at times. And I know you'll say, well, we just got to be more consistent. But when it's that stark, what do you as a coach do to make sure that the good defense is the one has the staying power, especially 1 week to the next? What is your approach this week to your team, to your defense, to get that out of them?
Yeah, that's a good question, Mark. It's about consistency, right? So it's about we call a cycle with a snap. And I know that sounds rudimentary, but for a player to make production and to play well inside the scheme, he has to get the call, right? And he's got to align, right? And then he's got to get in his stance, right? And he's got to read his keys, right? And got his eyes right. And then he's got to play football with great technique and execute his job. So that's everybody on the field, and that's all positions. And then when you have good execution, you have that along the line, right? So it's all 11 of us doing their job at the right time and doing it with violence and doing it with speed. And that's when you have a good product on the field. So that consistency, is really the measure of good execution.
But that emphasis is something that you've probably been doing from day one of last year.
I've been doing that my whole life.
Is there anything you do differently this week to make sure you get? I mean, because you've been emphasizing it and you still have those letdowns.
Yeah, you just got to really hone in and do a good job with coaching the details and guys wiring into the details, and that's what you do. You always got something where you got to fix or something you got to work on, as a coach and as a player and, really as a human being, right? So you got to really focus on the details of that and make an emphasis of it. And that's how you get better.
Matt, how important is it over these next 6 games for Justin, for you guys in your evaluation of him, to see him come through when the game's on the line, kind of like the situation that didn't happen at the end there in Detroit?
Yeah, I think that's really for our football team, right? So we're playing a lot of we're doing a lot of good things in a lot of areas of the football game. To start the game, the run offense, defense, the third down offense, defense has been good at times. The situations have been good, right? And it's not been perfect, of course, but it's been improving and it's been better. And the guys see that and feel that, and you can see that in our games too. We're having leads on people, and now the part is about finishing, right? The finish part. Well, what is that in the NFL? That's about 2 minute offense, right? 2 minute defense and 4 minute offense and 4 minute defense. So you have to really do a good job with that, and that's where we have to improve as a football team, not just Justin. Really, it's us as a group, and that's where I think we take the next step to finishing games. And of course, we've done that in some other games, but again, we got to do that versus quality opponents.
How
What's
pleased
the
were you with,
mental-
how pleased were you with Nate Davis after he missed about a month? And also, what were your thoughts on Tevin moving over to left guard? How did that work out?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of guys came after a month, right? Justin Fields is one of them. Obviously, I think that he played really solid in the game, did a lot of good things. Nate's another one that came back, and he was solid in there, right? He graded out well. Again, he played against a really good player. McNeil's a good player, and he's got really did a good job most of the day against him. But of course, a good player is going to get his a couple times, and but overall, he was good.
Do you feel pressure on yourself, Matt? I know we talk about Justin proving over the final 7-6 games. You as the head coach, do you feel pressure on yourself to prove to ownership or Kevin, whoever, that you're the head coach long-term moving forward?
Yeah, I can see progress, and I told the players in the meeting, and we can show them that. We can show them real tangible progress. And like I said, it's our charge is to take that next step. And in terms of what the pressure thing, really that's the NFL, right? It's about executing. It's a week-to-week league, and the story of the world is written every single week. So that's the way it goes, and that's where you're at, and that's the life we live, and I've been living it for a long time. That's the way it goes.
Go ahead, Dan.
Is there a mental aspect of finishing that players have to learn outside of like the technical stuff that you talked about, but just that mentality that you have to have?
Yeah, the mentality is definitely part of it. And I think that mindset and the mentality is where you start. That's where your foundational floor is. And then it's the execution piece of it after that. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And how can we execute fast and correctly? And that's really where it starts, So mentality, that's a great point. And that's exactly where our mindset is the mentality to finish, to make the good calls on offense and defense, and also for the guys to execute and the playmakers to step up to make those plays.
We talked Monday about, we were talking a lot about Montez Sweat and him missing those 3 plays toward the end because he needed a breather. Do you plan on keeping things the way they are as far as rotation, or do you want to change that to be able to make sure Montez is playing 80 to 85% of the snaps like a lot of top pass rushers do?
Yeah, I know there's a lot of talk about that. I understand the question, and it's a good question. But in that drive, there was 11 plays, and he took 3 of those off, I believe it was.
It was like 5 in a row, and then they were going no huddle, so you couldn't get him back in.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some.
So they jumped in for the last one. Yep. Yeah, you certainly want to see that rise. You always want to see that rise, and it's been rising. So, based on what he's done in his career to what he's doing with us now, it's risen, right? 8-9%, whatever that is. It's going to continue to rise. I think the way we practice and the way we do things, I think he will be in there more as we get going. And of course, we want him in there on critical downs, third downs, 2-minute, all those types of things, and he will be.
Do you feel, was that something you guys identified when you were scouting on his history to trade him, or to trade for him rather, I should say, that this was something we're gonna wanna boost with him, is a little more endurance, ability to play more? And
Yeah, you always want your best players playing more, in the critical moments. And, certainly we look at that and we want that. And going forward, we're going to obviously want more and more out of that, so you always want that.
What number of snaps, it's probably more the total number of snaps than the percentage that is really like a gauge of what he can handle. What do you think is a number or a range of snaps that he can play really effectively?
Yeah, I think you just keep looking at it. I think it depends on the drive, is it, the drives matter, right? Is it a 15-play drive? Is it an 8-play drive? It's always great when we go 3 and out, right? That's easy. But yeah, you just look at the drives. And I think it's the flow of the games is different. Last game where the flow of the game was kind of different, right? It was like, we had these normal downs, like Mark was referring to, and then we had these number of plays that were in a 2-minute mode, right, at the end of the half, into the game. So that's a little bit unusual. Typically, you have a little bit at the end of the half, maybe one at the end of the game, and that's the way it goes. But I think you always got to look at the flow of the game.
Do you try to make a conscious effort though? Like if you're in a critical situation, game's on the line, and you know as a coach, like my best players need to be out there in that moment. Do you have to adjust or you understand like this is the flow of the drive and this is where the rep counts are right now?
Yeah, but I'll go back to what I said, definitely you want your players out there, but when you're on 11 play drive and a player comes out to get a blow for 3, then he comes back in, that can be expected for sure.
Man,
How is the
Edmonds played 41 snaps. Is it fair to presume that he will be back more towards a normal number in the second week back from the injury?
Yeah, we're hopeful there. It looks good, so, last week he was, obviously questionable at the end of the week, he had the knee deal in it, so for him, it was, he was on a pitch count. We're working through him, I commend him, he worked out before the game. And then he was, the trainers came to us, say, hey, we need to have him rotate, with Sandman. So, and then we just did that, and that was the
He
rotation.
came out of that game fine, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the injury wasn't that.
Yes, yep.
Is there a point though, when, kind of going back to the Sweat conversation, like he wasn't in on that final drive?
Right.
Is there a point where you're just like, pitch count be damned, I need my best linebacker out there?
Yeah, you can do that, but you wanna make sure that you're, you gotta be mindful of the health of the players. I think that's important too.
So Matt, knowing that Tremaine was on a pitch count, how did you decide how to divvy up those snaps, knowing that if it came down to a final drive, he might not be out there?
Yeah, you look at it, right? So there was 2 2-minute drives, right? We were hoping it was gonna be 1, right? And then we were gonna either finish it there on defense or the 4-minute offense would finish it, and then we end up getting back on the field. So at that point, we put Sam in, and we feel great about Sam Moore. Sam Moore's been playing great football. He's making a lot of plays on the football, and he's a good player.
You said Sweat needed to come out in that late situation. Would you tell him not to? Would you tell him, no, we need you in even even if you're tired, or do you leave it to the player in that case?
These are pro athletes, right? And they played a lot of football. So, you leave it to him, when he's exhausted, needs to take a play or two, you let him do it and then get back in there as fast as you can. When there was a stoppage in play, get back in there. And I think that's always the best practice. Some guys stay out there and, they just want to stay out there, and you can clearly see that they're tired and their effectiveness goes down, right? So you want to keep your rushers fresh. And that's just the whole mode of doing that.
Did it turn out to be particularly problematic for you guys just because, the reason he's here is because you guys hadn't gotten much of a pass rush going. So the drop off from Montez Sweat to whoever's coming in for him is significant.
Correct, if they're both, fresh. If they're both players are fresh, for sure, but if the guy's, he's done, his level down in terms of his energy, right? Because went 8 plays in a row or 5 plays in a row or 6 plays in a row. Let's get him out for a couple plays, get a breather, come back in. So
We saw Terrell Smith work in there a little bit. Was Terrell Smith, he rotated in a little bit. Was Tyreek dinged up, or what went into that rotation?
no, just the rotation. He's another guy that's coming off a break, and and we got him back in there. He's been practicing really well. We like Smitty a lot. We like Tyreek, and it's for us being able to get those guys in there, those young corners in there, is important. Just like we did with Gordon last year, just like we did with Brisker last year. The development of those players, and in the secondary are real important to us, and Smitty's no different. Tyreek had a heck of a game, with that interception, and he took the the play that he missed, the week before on a slant, right? And Coach Hoke and those guys, took that drill to the practice. It doesn't always work this way, and that showed up again in the game, in that same moment on a slant route. So they worked the heck out of that, and catching the ball coming off a slant route, and sure enough, it showed up in the game. With Smitty coming in there again, great, really good young player that's developing, needs to get, those situations in there so he can continue to grow as a player, going forward, because, he's gonna be a big part of our future.
How do you balance when like Smith or Stevenson's having a great game, you're seeing all that progress, but you want to get Smitty in to see those reps? Like, how do you balance those two things?
Yeah, you have a plan. Of course, that plan can adjust as you go through it, and we feel great about Smitty. Like I said, he's had a great week of practice, and we trust him a lot, and he's done a good job.
With these types of decisions, when it comes to guys coming off injuries, getting their legs back, how much of this is coach's decision versus like the sports science side and understanding what guys really need from that perspective?
Yeah, there's, of course, the coaches want to put him in there and have no rotation. Just play. You know, that's what we want, right? We want all guys to be healthy and man, just play the best guys all the time, and that's the way it goes, right? Well, it doesn't work that way. We're dealing with human beings, and they're coming off of injury, and their endurance sometimes isn't what it is, where it needs to be. They need to get back in game shape, so to speak, and you have to have that balance. You got to meet with our performance staff, our training staff, which they do an excellent job of getting the guys back. And, you know, we just got to listen to their feedback and then really talking to the player, you know, where he is with the feedback, and he visits with the performance staff, and then we make a good decision. And, you know, we have to stick to that, you know, because we are bringing guys back in from long breaks, bringing guys back in from injury.
Matt,
When you looked at Khalil Herbert's performance on Sunday, what was your assessment? Did you feel like he was still shaking some rust off from his injury?
Yeah, Khalil's going to be fine. You know, he's going to be in there, and he's going to get the looks he needs to look, and he's going to come back with great strength this week. And certainly Khalil, wanted to play better there. And again, he's going to be great. He's going to be great. He's a real good runner for us, and he's made some big splash plays for us, and he's going to continue to do that.
Javon had a handful of pressures and like a 23% win rate. For him to have that kind of game against a really good offensive line, what does that tell you about where he's at in his development?
Good. He's really doing a good job. The one 3rd down, the one we almost picked to go for the pick 6 there. I think that he's doing well. He's getting his pads down. The biggest thing for me is he's taking big steps. The approach is good. The steps towards the quarterback. Everything's pointing towards the quarterback, his toes, his hips, and everything's there. And he's really attacking the line of scrimmage. That to me is what I see. And he's playing with length. With a guy that's that long, with the interior players, the centers or the guards are typically not as long, and him to play with that length there is really impressive. And when he does it right, it looks right, because you have a big man dent in the pocket, and then all the vision of the quarterback now is diminished. And you certainly saw that, and he's going to continue to progress.